Slap bang in the middle of England is the county of Leicestershire, and slap bang in the middle of that is the city of Leicester. But we're not here to talk about the location of the city. Instead, we're here to check out the stadiums and arenas of Leicester, England. Upton Still County Ground, more often known simply as Grace Road. It'll come as no surprise that the ground is situated on Milligan Road, but Grace Road is just over here, to be fair. It is of course home to Leicestershire County Cricket Club, but also hosts some international cricket of the women's variety. I don't believe the England men's team has ever played here. It did host a few games at the 1983 World Cup, but no England games. This is after all only the fourth biggest cricket ground in the Midlands, let alone the country as a whole. Whilst it is small, they have done their best to make the most of the limited space available to them, by just chucking several dozen seats on top of the pavilion roof. I imagine they're only really used during T20 games. Although come to think of it, they're probably some of the best seats in the house, weather permitting. Sitting under these trees would be rather splendid on a sunny day in the summer, when they have leaves, but the side-on angle isn't as good for cricket. Mattioli Arena. Basketball is not the biggest sport in the UK. In fact, I think netball has a higher participation rate, but they do have their own professional basketball league. One that is seemingly going strong, certainly strong enough for clubs like the Leicester Riders to build their very own purpose-built arena. They weren't risking too much financially, as despite its small size, it happens to be the largest arena in the city. So I'm sure it keeps busy hosting other events like snooker and darts. I still struggle comprehending the fact that darts is a big spectator sport in the UK, but to each their own. And by the looks of it, it seems that the arena just turns into one giant pub during a darts tournament. Vast quantities of beer could probably turn bird watching into an exhilarating spectator sport.
Wow, look at that raven!
That's not a raven, that's a magpie, you daft twat. The arena opened in 2016. You could say it was the best thing to happen to Leicester that year. I'm not so sure. I think those that frequently attend King Power Stadium would beg to differ. It is of course home to the club that put Leicester on the map, at least for those that aren't so familiar with the UK, or its cheese varieties. They may have overcome 5,000 to 1 odds, but their ground is certainly not a 1 in 5,000 stadium. It is a bit of an off-the-shelf design, consisting of an enclosed single-tiered all-seater bowl. There are a couple of very similar grounds across the country. But it's not a bare-bones stadium, it has all the necessary amenities, and there are actually plans to expand it in the near future to a capacity of 40,000. When this ground first opened, it was named after Walkers. The Walkers factory in Leicester is the largest crisp factory in the UK, and one of the world's largest. You know, in Australia we call these chips and these chips, which is a bit silly. I do have a bit of a crisp on my shoulder about that. To differentiate the two, I like to call this superior chip, and this only acceptable in salt and vinegar, or maybe like lime and black pepper or something along those lines, you know, a flavour that cuts through the greasiness of the chip. And I'd rather just say crisp. Mattioli Woods, Welford Road. I don't want to stereotype, but I think the Mattioli family might be running some sort of protection racket in Leicester. In actuality, it's some sort of financial company that's based in the city. This ground is the exact opposite of the King Power, in that all of the stands are completely different from one another. Some are old and traditional, some are modern and unconventional. This one in particular. Owing to room constraints, it has some asymmetrical proportions, which has left it with a very funky looking roof. It's reminiscent of Brentford's ground in that respect, just on one side. Some people might not like that lack of cohesion, but I love it. Much like a lot of rugby grounds in England, there is a stand with terracing lower down and seating higher up. It is the Crumbie stand, which is the oldest of the lot. As you can see, it dates back to the days when colour cameras and cantilever roofs were not widespread. So there are pillars holding up the roof, but only about 5% of the spectators at this ground will have an obstructive view, so that doesn't really matter. Some honourable mentions now. Saffron Lane Athletic Stadium is an athletic stadium that is at least close to Saffron Lane. Perhaps it did run right by the ground back in the day. Beaumont Park Stadium. Amongst verdant parklands is an oval of dirt, where motorbikes roar and eardrums hurt. Who needs Hemingway's poetry when you have Speedway poetry? Leicester Road Stadium. They bloody love their roads here. This is actually in the nearby town of Hinckley, but it's got Leicester in the name, so worth a mention. So there you have it. My favourite of the lot has got to be Welford Road. If variety is the spice of life, then this is one spicy stadium. Subscribe if you want to. I'll be doing more of these smaller UK cities for sure. Thanks for watching, have a good one.